David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, just want to talk on the title of this bill, the Land, Transport, Road Safety and Other Matters Amendment Bill, but I think it should have another couple of words in there, Selective Evidence Amendment Bill, because basically what we've heard tonight is a lot of selective evidence that sort of justify what is really, in terms of the alcohol question, was really a pretty sad story. Because if you go back to what we had been talking about before, what happened with this bill, Mr Chair, was that the Prime Minister, John Key, asked the Ministry of Transport if they could actually check whether a glass of wine might put people over the limit. And he was so nervous about that and what it might mean to the constituency that they decided that they wouldn't change the limit. Well, actually, as it turned out, Mr Chair, it was Mr Joyce found out, he could actually drink 3/4 of a bottle of wine, which he termed ridiculous, before he was over the limit. By that stage, they'd already made up their mind, based on some thinking that perhaps this was a sort of like Nanny's state, that they would keep the alcohol limit at 0.8 rather than 0.5. And here's where it comes sort of interesting, because there's an historical record that's got nothing to do with evidence, Mr Chair. Then we had Darren Hughes, who put up his private member's bill to bring it from 0.8 down to 0.5. And what happened? Well, Mr Key said, well, actually, we could make this a conscience vote, because there's a lot of people over there on the National Party side, and I can guarantee Jackie Blue, being a doctor, would have voted for it as well, to come from 0.8 down to 0.5. But Mr Joyce in caucus said, well, actually, that makes me look rather stupid. Or actually more stupid than I was. So what he decided was that suddenly it was going to be a caucus vote. So now, by this stage, the National Party's dug a hole so deep that they can't get themselves out of it. Except that popular opinion is that 2 to 1 are actually in favour of bringing the blood alcohol limit from 0.8 down to 0.5. And so they should, because as Michael Woodhouse just said just now, as you increase the amount of alcohol, so the incidence of accidents increases with it. So if you go from 0.5 to 0.8, there's a pretty good chance that your accident rate is going to increase as a result of the extra intake of alcohol. In fact, that's what you said, Mr Woodhouse, and I completely agree with you. Therefore, I cannot understand why this party is still trying to base a policy on the basis of evidence when they know that it's just basically political bungling on the part of Mr Joyce. That's what it is, nothing less than a bit of political bungling. Because if Mr Joyce was really interested in bringing the road toll down by about approximately 5 a year, then he would probably do something about the road between Warkworth and Wellsford, the Holiday Highway. Oh yes, 5 people a year die on that particular stretch of road. But instead, what this minister's doing is improving at great cost, more than $1 billion, the road between Puhoi and Warkworth. And why is that? Because everybody turns off at Warkworth to go to their batches at Omaha, including the Prime Minister, who's got a batch at Omaha as well. And I would suspect that Mr Joyce finds himself in that particular area himself as well. So over the holiday period, he does not want to be tied down by cars that stop him getting to where he wants to go, if he's not using, of course, the helicopter. So Mr Key can now drive up there in a seat-warmed BMW to get up to Omaha in the winter time and without any interference, because that road is going to be nice and smooth. But what's going to happen as a result of that is that we are going to delay the road between Warkworth and Wellsford. And on that particular piece of road, Mr Chair, 5 people a year die. On the other road, one person a year on average dies. Mr Chair?
I'll call David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Chair. So on that particular road, Mr Chair, only one person dies between Puhoi and Warkworth, but between Warkworth and Wellsford, we've actually got 5 people dying. You could make some incredibly simple, cheap modifications to that road, based on solid evidence, and that's why I say that the title of this bill should include evidence in it rather than just expediency, political expediency, as the government's pushing through in these other clauses. And we could actually make a real difference by improving that Warkworth to Wellsford Road. We could actually make a real improvement in the status of the road. The other piece of evidence which has been overlooked in this debate, Mr Chair, is raising the driver age. And we all know, anywhere in the world, not necessarily just here in New Zealand, that between 15 and 25 years old, that is, and particularly amongst males, that they are the age group which creates the largest amount of traffic accidents and traffic deaths. Although I think it's important that nobody else mentioned on the other side that in fact that rate is coming down. In 1986, nearly 17% of all deaths were caused by people in the 15 to 19-year-old age group. By 2006, it had dropped down to just over 11. It's important to see that actually in that particular age group, driving accidents had actually reduced. And there is absolutely no evidence that pushing up the driving age from 15 to what will actually be closer to 17, because by the time you get your full licence, you will not be 16, you will actually be 17. There is no evidence that actually will bring about a decrease in the road deaths. So, Mr Chair, we agree with better driver education. We think that's hugely important. That's what happens in the UK. Their driver education there is superior to ours. That could be a contributing factor to why the road toll there is less. Extended learner period for drivers, that's also important. And it's very interesting to note that when drivers of 15 or 16 are in a car with an adult, they actually have a lower accident rate than actually any other adult. So it's not actually about an issue of competence. It's simply an issue of experience and being able to drive a car. And most studies will tell you that at least 250 hours of driving experience is necessary before somebody becomes a competent driver. So it's about the experience of driving, not the age, which is the critical thing here. No matter what age you start driving, the first 2 years after you get your licence is the most critical, not only here in New Zealand, but elsewhere internationally. And I think, as a number of our speakers pointed out, that by raising the driving age to 16 and in effect 17, we're going to disadvantage many people, particularly in the rural areas, many people who have started work, many people who are doing shift work and need to get to work at age 16, 17, they will not be able to do that, and we will disadvantage those people, whereas today, Mr Chair, they are certainly not disadvantaged. And we're in the unusual situation in the Labour Party of actually supporting federated farmers, because federated farmers, their submission was actually a very good one. It was a very good one, pointing out exactly what I just said, the evidence as opposed to the rhetoric. And I have to say that the position that we're taking as a Labour Party is actually not possibly one that's got the most popular support out there in the community. But we're doing it because we believe that we should put in legislation based on evidence. And the Minister of Science, who's in the House at the moment, will agree with me, because his Chief Science Advisor, Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor, just brought out a report that said that our policies and our laws should be based more strongly on evidence, and I totally agree with him. And yet here, in this critical piece of legislation, we're willing to throw that evidence out the window. Mr Chair, this bill is supported by Labor. It's got some really excellent provisions in it, but it falls short on the issue of alcohol and the issue of the driver's age. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair.
The Honourable